Hello. Welcome to the ORION Train the Trainer Open Science MOOC module on adult education. My name is Ingram. I'm an educational scientist, and I will be guiding you through this module. This module will focus on giving you the basic understanding of what you need to know about facilitating learning situations for adults, and will walk you through the core steps of designing an educational course. First of all, I would like you to take 30 seconds and think about, in general, how do adults learn best? If you have a pen and paper, write it down. Keep those thoughts in mind, and I hope by the end of this module, we will have touched on some of the things you wrote down. When speaking about adult and further education or training, we're talking about learning situations that are organized for adults. What makes this special is that adults are primarily in charge of their own learning. The participants are not participating, as is in the school, because they have to, but because they want to, because the learning opportunity is perceived as something relevant. A situation where they can advance and enrich their skills and knowledge and develop themselves professionally or personally. That means that people that come to a training do not need to be motivated and persuaded to learn. They might need to be reminded and made aware of the depth of relevance for them. But they are generally interested in the topic and ready to be engaged. This fact should be kept in mind the whole time while planning and designing the course, and should be reflected in all of your activities. Being aware of the participants, that they're there on their own free will, helps us as trainers understand the role we have to be able to support training situations. The first place we have to start with is understanding that we're dealing with participants that are adults and therefore adult learners. Adults are busy people. If they participate in a training, they want it to be useful for them and not a waste of their time. They want to participate in a course that is relevant to them and their life, that makes a difference, gives them new perspectives and experiences, helps them make changes and meet their goals, and gives them the tools and skills they need to implement and take action. I am sure all of you watching this video are also here for one of the reasons or more than I just mentioned. We have designed this course to keep this in mind. So based on what I've just said so far, and trying to understand how adult learners learn best, adult education theory can help. There is not just one adult education theory. Adult education theories, in general, put the adult learner in focus. And adult education is based on interests and needs of the learner, and not the subject or curriculum in which the learner is forced to adjust itself to. But rather, adult education tries to provoke a process of self-directing inquiry, and not passive reception and transmitted content. Malcolm Knowles developed in the 1980s a theory of adult education based on the differences between child learners and adult learners. He coined the term andragogy, which is the art and science of adult learning. It is based on the notion that as humans mature in adulthood, they also become responsible for their own lives and also for their own learning. The assumptions and principles from Knowles are today still widely cited and used to build off. There are a handful of assumptions that the andragogical model is based on that describe what constitutes adult learning. They are the need to know, the learner's self-concept, the role of the learner's experience, readiness to learn, orientation to learn, and motivation. With the first assumption, the need to know. It is essential for adults to understand before they undertake learning something why it is relevant for them, and why they should invest their time and energy, and how it could benefit them. Adult educators can help adult learners understand the value and benefits of the training to become aware of their need to know. The learner's self-concept. This assumption is based on that as people mature, their self-concept becomes less dependent and more self-directed. And adults have the internal need to be self-directing. Often in trainings or education situations, people enter the room and take on the old persona of teach me, leaning back in the chair, arms folded, waiting for input. Yet, At the same time, as we all know, as adults, we don't favor being told what to do and how to do it when we're capable of directing ourselves. A task of adult educators is to see the need for self-directed learning and support it, as well as create learning situations that help make the transition from dependent learners to self-directed learners. The role of learners' experiences addresses that adults, over the course of their lifetime, have accumulated a growing reservoir of experiences. Not only are these experiences a tremendous resource that can be used in training situations through discussion and exchange, sharing experiences, participants can come up with solutions and learn from each other. And learn by exactly that, doing and experiencing. Experiences themselves are closely linked with our self. As adults, we are our experiences, and we identify with what we have done in life. So, not incorporating and building off the heterogeneous experiences of participants in trainings and educational situations, it's not only wasting a good learning resource. If it's not incorporated, participants can perceive that they're not being valued and even rejected. Readiness to learn. This assumption presumes that adults become ready to learn something when it fits to the stage of life they are in and contributes to the next step of development. Someone who is starting their PhD might not be so interested in specific details on publication possibilities as someone who is more near the end of their doctoral studies. In other words, adult learning is life-centered, which is described by the assumption of the orientation to learn. And that is that adults' orientation to learn is directed towards immediate application rather than postponed application. The orientation towards learning is less subject-centered, but more problem-centered. So learning is most effective when it can be applied and used in real-life situations. Last assumption of the andragogical model assumes that although outside factors influence motivation, adults are driven to learn by internal motivation. Applying these assumptions in teaching means that adults are motivated to learn when they experience needs and interests that will be satisfied through learning, and the need to know is essential for them to want to deeply engage with it. Adults' richest learning source is through experience. Activities should be centered around doing and being able to apply and integrate what they are learning to their lives. As adults like to learn by doing and in social interactions, design your activities around activating participants' need to know and internal motivation to be self-directing learners through activities with peers to apply and solve real problems. An example of this would be through discussions or case studies. When designing a course, it is important to take the time and think through what you're planning, which activities you want to do, and match them to meet the needs of the adult learners. Take the time to put the learner in focus and yourself. What makes this particular training relevant for them? And who are you trying to reach? Why? What could they need, and how could you design a course to help them achieve this? A few minutes ago, I asked you to think about how you think adults learn best. I'm sure that many of your thoughts coincide with what I have said so far. And if you would have been discussing this in a group, as a group activity, using the wisdom of the crowd, there would be little need for this input here. In this module, we will be covering supporting adult learning, identifying our target audiences, defining learning's aims and objectives, selecting content, and instructional design. The activities are designed to help support you to have a theoretical understanding of the task of designing an educational course and help you to be able to do it at the same time. If you have any questions, feel free to get in contact.